I love talking about my different fandoms and favorite video games and movies and TV shows as much as the next person, but there are things happening right now in our country that need to be talked about. It's political, it's not good news, it's things that are uncomfortable to talk about but that need to be talked about and need to be brought attention to. People need to know and stay informed of what is going on. Below in my video description there is an ever-growing list of people, social media accounts, organizations, and websites that are standing up to the hatred and violence we are seeing by our quote-unquote President Trump. Check out any of the links and social media accounts that I have at the bottom of my description to stay informed and to find out how you can help fight back. Just like Captain America said that it doesn't matter what the mobs or the politicians tells you. It doesn't matter if so many of them is saying something wrong is something right. And if they come to you saying that, telling you to move, it is your job to stand there and plant yourself beside the river of truth and say, no, you move. Hatred and ignorance and fear is not what makes our country great. Hey gamers, what's up? Welcome to my channel. I'm Trey Guillotine, and this is What You Gaming On, where we start every episode by asking you, the gamer, what are you gaming on? If you want to tell me what you're gaming on, what game you're playing, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, go ahead and leave that in the comments of this video or on any of my social media, and your answer will be featured in an upcoming video. We don't have any entries for today, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into what I've been gaming on, and I have been playing Gears 5. That's right, the wait is over. 5 years we've been waiting for Gears 5. I guess that's kind of poetic. But we're waiting for Gears 5. It's finally out. It actually came out early for those who either pre-ordered the $80 deluxe edition, which gave you a bunch of multiplayer DLC like skins and characters that I the amount of times I've played the Gears of War multiplayer, just the multiplayer, not even just the story multiplayer, but just the regular multiplayer, is one. I've played it once, and it was to try it out and see what was going on with that. So I did. So I'm not planning. I was not planning to pre-order the deluxe edition. I just wanted to get the regular game, but it did come out early. If you either pre-ordered the deluxe edition or you did the $2 subscription, or I think even if you just were subscribed to both Xbox Live Gold and the Xbox Game Pass, or if you weren't subscribed to it, you literally paid $2 to get it for 2 months and then be able to play Gears 5 a few days early. So that's what I did. I was planning to buy it outright because I like buying my games instead of just having the Game Pass. I don't particularly like the Game Pass. I want to be able to decide when I'm going to pay to play a game instead of just having a subscription where I may or may not be using the subscription all that much. But I did it for this. I'm probably not going to keep subscribing to either Gold or Game Pass. But I mostly did it just to play Gears 5, and I have been playing it. And so far, it's mostly positive. So far, the things I have to say about it are mostly positive. I do have some negative things, but we're going to go ahead. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to go ahead and start with the positive things to say about it. And just overall, it's a solid game. In terms of mechanics, that's something that Gears of War has always been really good at. The very kind of brutal cover mechanics that Gears of War has become famous for has always improved from Gears 1 to Gears 4 and now Gears 5 to be just a very fun experience, a very action-packed experience with lots of bullets flying and blood and guts and melees and chainsaw machine guns, and just there's so much there's so much to do with the mechanics. It's still a lot of fun, and Gears 5 is no exception. They've definitely enhanced it. The basic mechanics, the basic cover mechanics and reload mechanics, and melee and execution mechanics are still fairly similar, but they have added something to the combat, which I think is awesome. So Jack, who was a robot in the first the first Gears of War trilogy, that was really like he didn't do anything, or you couldn't control him to do anything. He was basically just a side character for plot to, either communicate with someone or download this thing or hack through this door. But you couldn't really control him or anything. It was literally just like a plot robot, a roplot. Well, he is back. And not only is he doing things for the plot, but he has also become a very active... He's been given a very active role in the combat of the game. He can shock enemies. He can send a flashbang out to get enemies out of cover. He can just full-on attack enemies. He can bring... you can point to ammo across the map and have him bring it to you so you can reload. If there's a party member down or your squad is down, you can send him to go revive him. Like, there's a bunch of things that Jack can now do, and I really do think that is a positive addition to Gears of War. Like, I feel like that's something that should have been done in the earlier Gears games, because I don't think that's something difficult to do, where you're having this robot. And Gears originally, I think even now, Gears is still a game where there are ways for you to control your teammates if they're not being controlled by another player. So having the ability to control Jack, I don't think would have been that far of a stretch of an idea, but they never did until now. So Jack, the robot, has a very active role in the combat mechanics, and it's a really cool addition. The other thing that I'm really loving about this game is the story. It does shift focus away from Marcus Phoenix and JD Phoenix, the Phoenixes, and now you are playing as Kate, who was a character introduced in Gears 4, and you're kind of unraveling the mystery around her and her connection to the Locust/Swarm. And that was actually one of the things I was worried about. As much as I was looking forward to Gears 5, because the Gears of War 4 kind of left it not on so much of a cliffhanger, but more of a, WTF, what does that mean when you find out that, or you see the back of Kate's amulet and it looks like a locust symbol. I mean, everyone's freaking out. I was like, oh my god, it's a locust symbol. I looked at it and I was like, that's like a basic geometric shape. Like, that didn't scream locust to me. That screamed just a basic shape design. But it's a locust symbol, so whatever. And there was the big question of, like, how does that fit? How does the medallion that Kate has that belonged to her grandmother, how does that fit into Gears of War? Like, what's going on with that? And now we're finally finding out in this game. But I have to admit, I was worried about the shift from Marcus and JD to Kate, for very vain reasons. I will fully admit that I have very vain reasons for not loving the idea of playing as Kate, because when I play video games or anything, I want my character to be someone I can kind of relate to, at least on one basis of just having a guy character. Yeah, that sounds really non-feminist of me, but like, don't get me wrong, I'm excited that Kate is the star of this game, because it is giving women who play Gears of War, who love this series, who love the story as much as I do, it's giving them a main character, they can really be like, hell yes, we have this badass woman, Kate, kicking ass in Gears of War, and I think that's fantastic. I think I've said it many times. I think representation in video games is important. But because I am playing as Kate, I'm not playing as Marcus or JD, so it's different for me, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's something that I have to deal with. But there's nothing wrong with Kate. I think she's a good character, and I like the new characters in this new Gears of War series. But that was something I was initially worried about when we found out, when it was first announced that we were going to be playing as Kate. I was like, I was really looking forward to continuing the game as JD or Marcus. But we are playing as Kate. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's something I personally just have to adjust to. But I'm super glad that, women who do love Gears of War now have this badass woman main character to play with. So those are the good things I have to say about Gears of War. But unfortunately, I do have some more negative things about it that I do want to touch on. One of which is another change to the game, and it's a big one. Gears 5 is actually more of, or at least so far, I'm only in Act 2. And I'm kind of trudging through Act 2, trying to, get further into the game and see if this is going to change. But so far, Gears 5 has been kind of an open world game. You are now traveling this region around Mount Kadar, which if you've played the past Gears trilogy, Mount Kadar is kind of where the Grub Central, the Locust Command City, was located within within underground of Mount Kadar. That's where it was. And you know what? Let me jump back. Another good thing is the story. Outside of just Kate, a lot of the story does focus on past things within Gears of War games. Like, so far, a majority of the locations we've gone to in the game, at least early in the game, are places we've either been to before or we've heard about. So, the first level, so the first tutorial, the actual tutorial boot camp actually takes place in, I think the city is Jacinto. I called it New Afira or Afira in my last video where I was showcasing the boot camp. That was basically just the tutorial of the mechanics. But I think I think the city was Jacinto, or it might have been another city. It was basically the city that you were in Gears 1, where you're walking down the street, you're going into the House of Congress, and Kim, has the door code. And they talk about Marcus's trial at the House of Congress, or Commons, whatever it's called. You're basically there in the tutorial, and you see that Baird is rebuilding it. And that was really cool. The first actual level of the campaign is in Azura, which was the location of the climactic ending of Gears of War 3. So it is definitely, while it is focused on this new story and continuing and moving the story forward, it's also going back to a lot of different places that we should be familiar with, that if we haven't seen them, we've at least heard about them and we're learning more about them. Like, the second level you go to is Settlement 2, which Settlement 2 is something you hear about in Gears 4, but you never got the whole story. Now you do. So I think that's really cool. So I think that is another positive. But going into the negatives, definitely, one of the big changes for Gears 5 is that they've made Gears 5 into a more open world kind of game. You're going around the region of Mount Kadar on the skiff, which is basically like a sail snowboard with a gun, which I've actually yet to have to use yet, which is another thing I'm kind of iffy about. But it is. You're traveling from place to place. You can stop and explore some locations, or you can just pass them by and go on. When you do explore, you'll find collectibles like cog tags, or you can find some more lore about the actual... You'll find some more lore about Gears of War and what happened, and get some more questions answered. The problem is that I've found that traveling from location to location on the skiff is kind of dull. For me, it really slows down the gameplay, and I'm not enjoying it as much. I'm enjoying when I get to the location and I'm going down the hallways and shooting the things and actually playing the game, but then I get back to the skiff and I'm just kind of maneuvering from one place to another, and it's just not all that fun for me. Gears of War has always been, it was very much, it wasn't an open world game, it was a track. You were on one track and you couldn't deviate from that track, but you got to shoot your way down that track, and it was fun. It was a fun game. It was a fun track to follow. Now it's not. It's this open world thing, and open world is definitely something that is getting a lot more attention, and a lot more video games are making their series more open world, and for a lot of them it works. The biggest comparison of how Gears open world works is how they added open world to the Uncharted series in Uncharted 4 and then Uncharted Lost Legacy, where you have your Jeep and you're in this one area, And you can go to these different places and do the sequences that happen there, but then you get back in your Jeep and you drive to the next place. That's kind of how this works here. And for Uncharted, even though in Uncharted 4 it was only one level that was happening on. Well, no, actually two, because they also had the boat part. And then Lost Legacy, that was a big part of the game. That was the whole game. It was more open world. It worked. It worked for Uncharted. It worked for that game as you were exploring and climbing and driving and doing all of these things to find the treasure. In Gears 5, that's not really the case. Outside of the skiff, you're not jumping on anything. You're not doing a whole lot of climbing aside from like, hey, lift me up to get up this cliff. It's just not the same. And for me, it slows down the gameplay and just makes getting from point A to point B kind of dull. And it's kind of frustrating, especially when we get into the second thing, and I actually think this is a big problem that I've come across, is that when the gameplay slows down and I'm starting to have less fun playing it because I'm getting bored with it, it becomes even more frustrating when I finally do get to that level. And this happened twice for me. During a level, I'll see the little save icon come onto the screen and it's saving, and then it just kind of stays there and just continues saving. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird. But I pushed on, and then I got to the end of the level, and the game blacked out. I couldn't go anywhere. It wasn't coming back on, so I had to crash the game and turn it off, give it a couple seconds, turn it back on, and when I got back to the game, I was literally at like one of the first checkpoints of the level. So I had to do all of that stuff over again, and that's happened to me twice so far, where the game will not freeze, but it'll just get to a black screen and never come back. And I would have to reboot it and turn it off and turn it back on again, and then redo what I'd already done, which that's really frustrating, especially when I have to get back on the skiff and go to a new location where that could possibly happen again. I don't know if that's the game, or I don't know if that's maybe my Xbox. I live in Louisiana, which is the hot, sweaty swamp ass of the USA. So, maybe it's just not reacting well to the heat, even though it's in my house with air conditioning and fans. I don't know. I don't know if that's a tech problem with the game. If it's my Xbox, I don't know. But that was really frustrating. And that made me not want to play it. Like, that made me literally like, F this, turned it off, and went back and played WoW. So that was a big, not great thing about it. And it's making me not want to play it as much. I've been waiting with this game for 5 years. And I am very kind of disappointed that I'm not just obsessively playing it this weekend. I think I've probably spent more time playing WoW on WoW Classic than I've spent time playing Gears 5, because I would get bored playing it, or it would crash and I would have to stop playing it. So what's there, and the story and everything, I think is good. I think the changes that they've made to the mechanics and adding Jack is a great thing. Having Kate, while maybe not my personal preference of the character I want to play, I'm thrilled that she is getting spotlight, and that, a badass woman is now leading the game with Gears of War. I think that's awesome. I applaud them taking a chance with the open world and, saying if this is something they can do. I personally don't think it worked. And that happens sometimes. You take a chance, or video games will take a chance, and it just won't work. It just doesn't work out like you wanted it to. And it sucks, but they learned, or maybe I'm literally the only one who feels that way, and the rest of the Gears series will now forever be open world. I don't know. But I personally don't love the open world aspect of it. I feel like it was a lot more exciting and a lot more fun when we were just on that track, playing through the game, shooting our way through the game. And also just it crashing and having some issues, bringing me further back through checkpoints I'd already done, is just another frustration with the game. So I really am. I'm trying to enjoy it. I really, really am. It's just, I'm not enjoying it as much as I did, when Gears of War 4 came out. or any of the other Gears of War games that I've played. I'm not enjoying it as much as I did. But now I want to hear from you. So if you're playing Gears 5 this weekend, let me know your thoughts on it, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and your answer will. And let me know in the comments of this video or on any of my social media, and your answer will be featured in an upcoming episode. If you want to check out any of my other videos, you can go to youtube.com/tguillotine on this YouTube channel, or you can check out my videos and any of my written works, from articles to reviews to just some basic blogs. You can go check those out at treyguillotine.blogspot.com. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it around so others can join in the conversation. And subscribe to my channel to geek out some more. Thanks for watching. Have fun.